City Hall.
I just have to, I don't know what to do if I don't have a Band-Aid on my hand.
I went down to show sheet today, but the wind was just
Why is
blowing
this
through
not
to get that project done, so I'm kind of waiting for the wind to die.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
I don't want to kill everything, so this thing works down there, fucking barbecue.
You left your brush on lap,
Oh,
the little outworkers on top.
I didn't leave them.
Yeah,
The wind caught.
no, they were over on the side. No, that was really good. I told Calissa and Sunny, I go, oh wow, so it was really super that you got it all done, so thank you. But-
Well, I told you it was bothering.
Oh, it was bothering us, but it looks very nice without it. We'll see what it goes back now.
Not exactly the cleanest cut, so I had to use the pole chainsaw.
Oh,
It was the only thing I had to
yes.
reach, so I just kind of gently trying to touch them up there.
Oh,
So it's streaming
it's
Can't
fine.
put it
fine,
out.
but in Granicus, it's
Oh,
not.
that's what you did, because you had it with you that day.
Yeah, there's no way, you know, level ground.
Showing me.
I didn't know if you
Probably finding later stuck in the top of the tree.
or swimming with the goldfish.
Yeah, it's stuck in the mud.
So did you get off work? Have you done your cleaning? Good. You were here for the meeting?
Yeah.
No.
I was told that I can sit in on one, just to see how it goes, so.
Well, maybe we'll think of something to talk about besides.
I'm supposed to shut up. So really, I'm breaking the rules already.
No, but see, I think I can sit up there. Because watch, I never had anything to say situation.
That's kind of my job too, it's like, well, we're gonna spend something, start sitting in that, apparently it's gonna cost $1 million.
No, and then we wanted to.
I was like, I guess that's what you get for me, but.
Since coach, but do the grant.
Which is great.
So 21 years.
I had an issue with sound earlier, but I finally got it going. Yeah, look, my Granicus is great.
This one, I want you to.
But my YouTube, if you toggle to my YouTube tab, it's live. It has video.
Was a grant purchase.
Well, I wasn't sure, I knew you were educating me about when I worked.
I have no idea.
Isn't that weird? It's streaming on YouTube, so I think it's fine, and
I
I'll
think
just,
it's fine too.
I'll just download the YouTube and upload it to Granicus. But that's
Where
bizarre.
it was bizarre.
I've never seen it.
So it's not that the server's not down, it's doing what it's supposed
No,
to.
yeah,
You
'cause
clearly got Zoom and YouTube.
yeah, Zoom is on. Like this is streaming live.
No, it was just in here.
Wait, what the
But
hell?
the problem is, it's my foot
Oh, it's
through the.
It's just delayed.
it's just delayed. Oh, it's freaks
It
me out.
always is, yeah.
Oh, where's your jet
I know it
ski?
freaks me out sometimes too.
Kind of quickly, kind of
Okay.
I can go try to Google it really quick or see if I can find Michael, see if he's anywhere
I
around.
texted Michael. He's on a call right now. So I just thought it would be
I hadn't run into that, but,
really weird.
a lot of things.
Okay.
but I think you should be good, but maybe
Well,
Google
I
it.
finished the,
Okay.
because it's white and thinner, and I'm supposed to make it shinier and stuff, and other stuff. You know, but, I made that short, so it's also, I mean, and the currency is on the chart. I was like, yeah, we're gonna know. Well, now I'm here, it's starting to make sense.
Oh, yeah, but it's coming.
So,
It's everything, but there's some kind of water.
so, yesterday, they had to go ahead and pull another.
That's why I have to always do it.
I'm like, okay, we
Well,
got.
y'all don't know the price. We also have a census station.
No, of our, the lane.
You're in?
And so when I told myself I have to shut the fountain off,
Oh, that's so weird.
it's already on the ground. It's just right at it, floating. I said, I dropped it, it's gonna tilt sideways, and it's gonna burst my head, so they changed it. They're gonna treat, because they're treating it, they're gonna try to kill them with the lorries and so. Yeah, but you know you can never turn that. Not unless he sucks in that stuff.
No, we just cleaned it actually.
No, second, how are you?
I work.
I'm great.
It's in this meeting.
I am great. I haven't seen the response back to Bill.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just make an arrangement with you to,
Yeah, I'll pull up everything we got from Angus, which honestly is not a whole lot, but we can run through it and see what
know, Bill and I talked about making some things consistent in our
We could send them this
job.
down.
And I'm pretty sure it's not deeper than 20 feet. And I'm pretty sure it's not,
Even at the original water rank, information that I have.
yeah, it's not large enough to be considered. It has to be so many feet deep and so much, you know, water volume, and I think it needs that. So anyway, but, I have some nutty things and then I'll get in touch with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
You didn't have to go high.
Oh, you're always at.
Right.
Suck up.
I got hopefully I have a pretty good day
Here,
today,
over in
the
the
rest of
middle.
the day, but I'm halfway through this blue meeting.
That's okay. We just got one done a while ago.
We're out of top is second Saturday in July, they're beginning to hold review probably between now and Monday.
Is that tag? Hey, does anybody ask you a question?
Well, besides, I'm a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say your name's what?
Jim,
That's what I was thinking.
The east side one is.
So this I use as an example. Anyway, I worked on staff
yeah, I,
presentation.
I don't know exactly how it's.
okay, there's running actual per meter costs 40 or between 40 and 70 bucks. If you buy it down here, it's still, no, well, I've got heat there's another one that they manufacture local.
Thank you for looking. I appreciate that.
That's off. I'm talking about the whole thing. Yeah. You're talking about the whole thing. And across it, there's all trees and everything as much as we can. Because we need a lot of answers. So I haven't got.
I have,
I don't want to get involved with programs on this one.
you, the thing is, see, I do. No, I've been it since I was a kid. That's what I mean. This head
That hasn't happened.
is, you'll have to talk to him, it's got, it's a plastic head.
Hello. Hi. How are you?
Just want to say again, thank you.
Yeah.
Three
Yes.
examples of stuff that are questions about.
Well, there's.
Patties?
Well, I really rely on.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
here, and I heard one.
Okay.
I've had a couple of people say what it was for lunch. Like there's
Well, no,
You
it's
said-
self-fulfilling.
I already get rid of like some here, plus other examples. We already have
So you like it?
Yeah, it's great.
We have tomorrow.
Oh, do you? Yeah, your friend is. I win. Thank you, I like it short.
And then we already sent it to the city.
I
You're not as involved.
know, I was gonna say this like probably.
Oh, the Empire.
Right, and on the Empire group, that's the only one where I know there's active groups. Still might have some.
I know, that's one thing I don't like, is when you say for him, it's kind of all back.
The Millicoma trip.
Right.
Okay. I was gonna say,
Involved with it.
I was just gonna say that.
And I said, well, you know, we hope it does, people get to hang out at the school.
I did, this group and the tree board.
So we already know what the background is.
Yes, I can.
Funded it. And then maintenance thing 3 times a year.
Oh, the partition?
Like those, I brought those issues and then else from Massachusetts.
It might be during the summer season.
Right, so if you
Instead
get,
of winter.
because one of the irritations, I guess, is
Or
when
have
you do
some parts
something
that
that
come up
falls apart.
again.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we did a really good
Yeah.
So they have groups, and they don't have to be the same
And
one.
plus that's me.
But in each of those areas, we do have regions and groups that are interested in
They're
just
really bad.
focus groups.
Yes, no, everybody, and I really appreciate you, thank you so much for
Okay, well,
giving
thank
me
you.
this information.
All right.
Yeah, no, I got it. You know what, we share that goal, and I think it shows action to say, let's do it.
And then get the beard back, because sometimes you don't need to do it one.
Sure, sure.
Our idea is to go to 7:7. It's 2 hours. You're after lunch. Starts at 1.
Nap time.
And you're out. So, and it's, if you bring your family, we'll find something for your family to go
Don't
do.
look at me, I'm a
Okay, this is on Saturday, but it's not.
okay, work the
Don't
cheese
you,
off, that's,
don't you take care of the South Road down there, too, though?
yeah, we need to go.
You always tell me. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
For like 10 years besides working. So who's the one who, what's on your?
They'll be getting a hold of me, probably Monday, but we're meeting. Talking about how we did this last job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's at your seat.
We have it covered.
Oh, right on. That's my favorite too. Thanks.
It's not your favorite.
That's all That's good. I wrote down my words.
It's huge.
Trying to figure that out. I didn't.
Everybody's here. We took-
Thanks for my work.
No. No, I don't.
I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the June 15th City of Coos Bay Parks Commission meeting. We'll do a roll call and we'll start way down at the end. Oh, Bev Myers.
If each member could speak
on
into
your
the
mic.
microphone.
Make sure your light's
If there's
on.
not a green light or you don't have the option to have a green light, please speak into the microphone. Thank you.
Oh, real green.
Real green.
Anyway, Bev Myers.
Bev Myers.
Coco Sutton.
Patty Scott.
Bill Davis.
Jamie Faraday. Carmen Matthews.
Ariane Lyons.
Greg Hamblett.
Jennifer Worsing.
Sam Nelson?
All right, thank you so much. We do not have anyone online, but the link is open. Item number 2, Adopt a Park program findings.
Okay, I can take that one, but I am going to look to Commissioner Sutton to assist when you guys have questions. So the purpose of an Adopt a Park pilot project, it can help the City of Coos Bay Public Works and Community Development Department to enhance the park user enjoyment of city parks. So the applicants for the Adopt a Park pilot project can process as an individual or group of volunteers and provide up to 3 different levels of support. They're group or individual to perform a city-approved task or project, group or individual to provide cash donation for city-approved program or project, and then a group or individual to provide in-kind donations for a city-approved project. So the project management. The City of Coos Bay Adopt a Park pilot project will strive to be organized and funded by 100% volunteer time and funds. The City of Coos Bay Commission will adopt a subcommittee to assist with rollout, recruitment, training, and data collection. The volunteers will coordinate with this Parks Commission subcommittee so that the current public works and community development projects and/or events are not negatively impacted by the pilot program. The Adopt a Park project will not exceed 3 park properties in the City of Coos Bay. So it's recommended for the success of the pilot project to use Mingus Park, 1 park property from Eastside, and 1 park property from the Empire District. So rolling this out, the Adopt a Park pilot project will run from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. The Adopt a Park application will be laid out to allow applicants to choose the pilot parks they wish to support. Once they select the pilot parks they wish to support on the application, they will choose the specific projects or tasks needed in the pilot parks they choose to support. The applicant will then indicate which type of support they wish to provide to the pilot park from the list of options of needs for that pilot park. And applicants will choose from the 3 time periods they will support the indicated pilot park in the way they indicated. The time periods are the summer season from June 1st to September 30th, the fall cleanup winter prep from October 1st through January 31st, and then the winter spring cleanup from February 1st to May 31st. So if this is something that the commission wishes to pursue, the next steps are form the Adopt the Park Pilot Program Subcommittee, identify no more than 3 pilot Adopt a Park programs, and then draft the following documents. Adopt a Park pilot project form, which includes a volunteer application, identify projects and tasks for no more than 3 pilot Adopt a Parks programs, create an outcome matrix for the projects and an Adopt a Park program to track volunteer time, materials, funds, etc., and safety and risk forms, create safety and risk forms for volunteers to avoid subject worker issues. Any questions?
Coco, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you. I thought that since I've been on this commission, we've had several people come in with ideas that are already underway. So when I was looking at this information, I also got some application Adopt a Park agreement forms from other areas that are municipalities that could be helpful. And since we know that in the east side, for example, there's the Millicoma Trail that's already been brought before this committee, this commission, and they have somebody that's already sitting on this commission that's involved in that. We also know that in Mingus Park, an issue with the pond being drained, and we already have someone sitting on this commission that's brought that up several times about the need for that. And then in the Empire District, I don't have a tap-in personally to a lot of groups there, but I know that there's already an Empire group that does things in those parks. I think at one time there were some issues with Ed Lund that they were looking at. So with that as an idea, having things that are focusing those individuals or groups for not only completing a project, and that can be cash, it can be materials or in-kind, it can be volunteers that are coordinated, again, so they're not interfering with something that's going on. Tracking the outcomes, the volunteer times and hours helps feed into the new grant position that you're wanting, because every single grant that you put in for is going to ask, what's the community input? Is the community interested in what you're wanting? What kind of hours or in-kind supports do you have? That will give you a feel for that for a 1-year period as you bring this grant writer on. And it will also, I feel, help you get some very specific projects completed. Also, in those 3 areas, there are volunteer groups, merchants, et cetera, that have presented and come before this group, and I think they're doable. So thank you for your consideration.
Jamie?
Bravo. I'm obviously the one in East Side that is excited about this because the Millicoma Marsh Stewardship Group, which is part of the Millicoma Marsh Management Plan, which is part of Coos Bay School District's way of managing that system, because they don't have a budget for that trail, that interpretive trail. They mow it, they mow the sides. They don't take care of the structures, the interpretive signs, or the actual trail surface. That's up to what we find in grants and volunteers, and that's been the case since 1991, more so now just because it's been 31 years and it's degrading. So, and we have lots of groups, South Slough, Coos Watershed, even the Coos Forest Protection Association uses that as their physical training, and they've come in and helped us with hazard trees and that sort of thing. So I just haven't kept track. I've kept track of them here and there with documentation, but this is going to be very helpful in coming up with a way that will suit the whole city. The Millicoma Marsh Trail is on school district and city land, and Coco pointed that out to me when she, part of it, the last part right next to the salt marsh, which is the reason we put that thing in, is to get students, public, down to one of the last remaining tidal marshes in the Upper Bay, which is fantastic. You can get classrooms out there and anybody from the community right next to a salt marsh within the city limits is a plus. So this is 2 thumbs up in my book.
Coco?
Well, I'd like to point out the management piece for rollout. I would be thrilled to ask if Bev, and is there anyone here that's familiar or lives in the Empire? I live in the edge of the Empire District, but I don't live deep in. Is there anyone here that has a feel for that, other than I know Edlund Park was brought up before with the fence and some cleanup issues there? We don't have to do 3. We don't have to do specific areas, but I thought since we had things that had already been brought up, if there was something that we had specific, I would like to know as we talk about whether or not we want to do it and the rollout. Thank you.
So I think we'll go ahead and we'll allow some citizen comment on this issue.
Coco has a lot of expertise with parks. She's like the resident expert. It's a lovely looking plan, but I think the city should solicit who really wants what done where. In other words, I would ask, do you want to adopt a park? Contact the city. What park do you want to adopt? You may have a neighborhood. The neighborhood up around the elementary school and the pool may want to adopt Mingus, but you may find that pickleball players may just want one specific thing in one. I realize that adds more coordination, but to me, it is a pilot program, and I did learn quite a bit from her presentation and the staff study, but I think we really need to see what community sentiment is to who wants to invest time where. The second part of this is that because of the nature of the community and the wide disparity in income between high and low here, generating donations for a city project, even a very noble city project, is going to be challenging. And I think more in line with what OBAB is doing, which is the city provides the materials, the OBAB provides the labor. When you're writing grants and start to go forward with this, please approach OBAB, not specifically me, but approach us, and we can give you the statistics for how many hours, including the administrative time, how much was spent on promotion, how much material was collected, how many trees were done, all of that sort of stuff we track, because we will be writing grants, not this year, calendar year, but next year for some things ourselves, and asking the city to be a sponsor. In other words, a reference. I've just about $50,000 in grant money for other stuff that we brought into the community, not particularly OBAB, but just in general. But I do think you really need to see where the buy-in is. You may have more buy-in for the pocket parks that are directly close to a neighborhood, even Key Park or Pirate Park or whatever the new name is, or the little one on the top of the hill with the tennis courts. I do want to touch on some other things, but I'll wait until your discussion with this is done.
Thank you very much. Jamie?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, and I don't know what.
Jim Barons.
And what is OBAB?
I volunteer for OBAB. I was on their board of directors, but I volunteer for them now.
It's
Oregon.
Oregon Bay Area Beautification. They do.
Okay.
It's the group
Trash.
that does the second Saturday of
Second
every month.
Saturday.
They
Okay.
do a park project in our area.
Cleanup.
Okay, so are this pilot project, I presume, is to see how we can go about a full-grown program in the city, is that correct?
Okay, addressing a pilot project in the scope of this document was things that had already been mentioned and have groups or individuals that have already expressed either monetary, labor, materials, et cetera, so that in the pilot project, you can promote, recruit, and get some things done. I mean, in the end, you want a project completed that someone's already asked for. So instead of a fishing expedition, you're targeting, and then you're getting the feedback to find out. We already know where the budget is. We already know there's volunteers and people that want to do things. So for this pilot project, because we're already into the summer season, and we're ending the end of the next fiscal year, so that way you already know your budget, you already know things that have come in. So this pilot project was very limited in its scope and very limited in its time frame. And that's the intent, was to just have specific things so that you could get started and put those groups in. And then with that feedback and information, you can see, is there a need for this? Some places there are, some places there aren't. For example, which isn't comparable because it's not municipal, but when you look at Oregon State Parks, which does the feed through municipal and other organizations from cemeteries, historic properties, et cetera, there may be some areas where adopt-a parks are very popular. And their stance in some counties is, unless it's remote, we don't want an adopt-a park, because we want to have our thumb on it and we want to see it. Other communities, they want adopt-a parks so that they can promote, get feedback, and be involved with the community, put it in the newspapers, and get coverage, so that people don't sit and say, well, we always build things, but we never take care of them. Who's taking care of them? And that's a way to show that. They even do volunteer things every year. They do picnics, they do pins. So it depends on what you want to do with it afterwards. But the intent with this is focus, very specific, very small, in the 3 areas that are defined by the city, and get something completed so that within that you can see, how will this work, if at all? Thank you.
Thank you. Carmen?
I'm seeing this as kind of a way to gather data. Is that kind of the intent in some way, shape, or form? Yeah. Yeah.
Get something done.
Get something done.
So the question was, is this to gather data? Yes, it is. But the end result for any adopt-a-park is to get needed tasks
Yeah.
infrastructure or repairs completed. And we've already seen and heard many that people have brought up year after year that they want completed. So this is a way to put the boots on the ground, the rubber to the road, and say, here's what we have, 3 specific things, roll out from this group and the subcommittee the targeted areas of people that have already expressed an interest, and then you're going to see what sifts out from that. Because at the end of the day, you want something completed and you want it maintained.
Jamie?
And the surveys from 2022 that fit into the master plan support what you're proposing.
In the master plan, there was a lot of information that was gleaned from online and then in person. As we know, when you do a Survey Monkey, the parameters in that IA are very limited. It's asking someone to define a yes, no, if, then, else. When you sit at events like the East Side neighborhood or down at the farmer's market and you start gathering information from people, they're going to give you an earful, and I did get an earful. And that's why the branding, a lot of things came up. There were people that were complaining about not being able to use the showers in the port because they think that's the city of Coos Bay. So a lot of the things are feedback. When you get out and you work with volunteers and you have people shoveling or picking up dog poop or whatever, you get a lot more feedback that's not in the parameters of what you have. So yes, you're right, this is a way to get information and get data, but it's also a way to say, hey, this is who cares or who has the time today. Just because you do something today doesn't mean next year you're going to have the same results. That's why you break it up into the periods of time and you see who wants to keep rolling it out each year. So it takes a subcommittee with the parks because the city doesn't have the time to do that. They have a very limited staff there. Thank you.
And Coco, is the thought that we pick the Empire District project and the Mingus Park project and the East Side project, or that we say, okay, here's 4 things that need to be done in East Side, who's available to do any of them?
Yeah, the recommendation in this, those were examples. Okay. It was do not pick more than 3 things. Mm-hmm. Now, you could do 3 things in Mingus Park, but you may alienate other groups that are already starting to do things. So just consider carefully what you do, because as with any project, especially if it's a pilot project, you want to pick something that you think has the best success of being completed, and you don't want to spend too much time fishing because pretty soon your pilot project's over and you haven't done anything. That's my opinion. Thank you.
I got a question. Is the Millicoma Marsh part of the park's assets?
It's a very tiny, small portion, but I think it's actually part of a road easement.
Yeah, so we don't have it listed as a park asset.
No, it's not identified in the master plan.
Yeah, I didn't think so. That's
The only thing that the master plan identified was in the objectives for the future. It was objective H or something that said, don't forget Millicoma Marsh, because that's what people think it's, was it in the city? It's maybe a park, but
it's not listed as a park.
No.
Okay. Bev, do you record all of your hours and turn those into the city? So we have documentation of all of your...
Plus 20 years and plus records at home that if you miss one, I can resend it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because there's like a...
Plus all my helpers, not just me.
Oh, good. Yeah, I would imagine.
What we do.
So there's a certain dollar amount assigned to every hour of volunteer work, labor. So that's like a significant donation to the Mingus Park asset itself right there. And I mean, I guess it already is recorded in some way with the city, correct?
Yeah, we gather all volunteer hours each month.
That's wonderful. Well, I would love to see a park pilot program move forward. Thank you, Coco, for doing all this work, pulling this all together and giving some information, and staff for all the work, because I want to see, the ability for some groups to complete tasks, but also be, kind of a financial vehicle for obtaining grants or any funding that might be able to help the city and the Parks Department in general. So I'm all for it.
So just for clarification, today what we're looking for is to approve and move forward with the pilot program, and then assign the park pilot subcommittee, and then the subcommittee would do the minor fishing, not a lot of fishing, but the minor fishing to identify the 3 Adopt a Park programs.
Okay, and this is an outline proposal. So one of the biggest things is we don't want to put a lot of it on the city plate, because we already know they have their budget and their summer season. So the main thing today is, number 1, find out, do you want to even do it? Or do you want to wait till another period of time? It's good to start and end them on your fiscal year. Number 2, if you decide you want to do it, do you have an interest in the commission to have enough people to roll it out and get everything together? As it said in this example of proposal, the final say of whatever project, you could say, hey, we just want to do one thing, and we want to do it through these 3 periods. Is the city has the final say, because they're the ones that have staff and other events and things going on. So you do all the stuff, you get it ready, you deliver the basket and say, here's what we have. And then the city says, whatever, because they have to get the forms, they have the liability, they want to make sure they don't have subject worker issues, et cetera. So that's what this was set up for. But ultimately, it's how much buy-in to get it going, or do you want to wait? So if you want to do it, that's step A. 2, who wants to be on the subcommittee, and what do you want to do? 1, 2, or 3, no more than 3, but you could just do one thing, and then get that hitting, get everybody together. We'll work on getting the forms, et cetera, and then the city has to approve that, so that they're not stuck with any, issues financially with somebody getting hurt or somebody interrupting something else that's going on, et cetera. So that's what this is, just an outline.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you see in the subcommittee, which of course contains committee members from the Parks Commission, do you see any community members participating in this? I mean, because an at-large position or something like that, because it's a lot of work. I mean,
yeah, I think to start with, you need to funnel, planning what you want to do. And then if you pick projects and you want to have, like, for example, can I use you as an example?
Sure.
Okay, so let's say, for example, you pick one thing. And let's say that you pick doing the Mingus Park Pond. And let's say, since Bev's already on our subcommittee, Bev says, oh, by the way, Joe Wonderful and his wife would like to be involved in this. So then Bev would get them quickly up to speed. We'd get them signed in, and then they may be the people that are supervising the groups that are working there. As you look over, I don't know if anyone got the examples of some of the Adopt a Park things, but what you're looking at is you want to make sure that you're not burning out your group. You're the conduit, so that people aren't going up to the city all the time saying, we want to do this, this, and this. And then once you pick your project, you're going to have your group gathering everything so the project can be successful. And that could involve a youth group, because somebody that's not 18 has to have specific sign-off, et cetera. And that goes to those groups. So if that makes sense. Thank you.
thank you. Additional commissioner comments?
I would say, right now, my main concern is the timeline to kind of get this rolling. I mean, starting July 1st is less than a month away. It's not much time to roll out, call to action, public service announcements. I worry about that. just the timeline in general. I really want to see it move forward, but I don't know if anybody has any ideas on that.
I think it seems reasonable to roll it out now, but not have the summer season be an option for this first section. Just roll right into the, looking for the fall and then the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're already halfway, 16 days through June
Yeah.
already, so. But that's just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, that is the time when there's a lot of work to do, and city staff could use additional assistance. But, yeah, it's the timeline
Mhm.
that worries me.
Okay. I'm looking for some motions, one way or the other.
I would like to make a motion to adopt a park and roll out with one specific project, starting with this matrix.
We have a first, do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Carmen. Further discussion? Bev?
I was going to suggest that since I've tried to recruit every person that is possibly able to walk, roll, crawl through Mingus and Choshi, that all those people that can do 5 and 6 loops around the whole pond and Choshi, they say, oh, I can't help you, I should be home doing this. But then they keep walking loops. And by the time we fill one wheelbarrow, they are still walking around and should be home doing it. Well, I was going to suggest, which is discouraging for the people that have mud on their hands and stuff, including David back there on the Parks Department that does wonderfully to help us. My suggestion was, before we get this set up, I've sent at least 4 or 5 people down to City Hall to fill out those volunteer forms and to specify which park they want to help in. And I haven't heard a peep from the city to say, oh yeah, Joe Wonderful has just written in his application, which is like 3 pages or 4 pages to say, you know, this, that, or the other thing. And my suggestion is to have the City Hall figure out where the information is going to get started at, so that volunteers can. Okay. So just so the city people understand where it could start if we just could grab somebody like tomorrow, you know. Thank you.
Thanks, Bev. Coco?
Yeah, and to address that, in this rollout, we were wanting to be very pointed that this is separate from the general volunteer thing that's already in place. So all these farms would be put together. The city would approve them for the volunteers because of the injury issues and stuff. But it would be very specific, adopt a park, which is different from the general volunteer, and it would be for a project.
Okay.
So hopefully that would get the feedback to whatever that project is quickly.
Okay. Do we have any staff comments?
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
No, thank you at this time.
All right. So we have a motion on the table, and I'm going to call for vote. All those in favor of moving forward with the Parks Pilot Project with one yet to be identified project for the pilot project park, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Do we need to set up a subcommittee?
Yes.
Okay.
So those that are interested in being in the subcommittee, Coco, Jamie,
I'll
Carmen?
jump on, yeah.
Okay. And then I'm assuming the subcommittee will come back to the commission with a project, or do you have a suggested do you want to meet first, or do you have a suggested project, or Coco?
I would like to have this committee, I would like to make a motion that we pick one project here because it needs to ultimately be approved by the city. That way, when the subcommittee meets, we can get the ground running, if everyone else is in concurrence with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we need a motion quite yet, not to overstep until we pick one. So do we have a suggestion on the one project?
I vote for something in Mingus Park. 'Cause then I can walk to work.
So we have one for Mingus Park, a project in Mingus Park. So
As I have a feeling I'll be working at it.
It's too bad we can't still muck a pond by ourselves. It's too bad it's biohazard now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we used to do that. We used to bucket out the pond.
Hmm.
But we still can't,
What do you
we
think,
can't do
Jamie?
that anymore, can we?
What the project will be?
We can't
Do you want to pick a
volunteer to muck out
space
the
or
pond anymore.
spot or
'Cause
park?
it's a
Or
biohazard
do you have
now.
anything that you want?
I'll
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, we
go
used to do it
Coco?
by bucket.
with
Oh,
the
I didn't know that.
centralized.
But at this point,
Walk down the hill?
Walk down the hill, yeah.
Yeah, Coco?
if I may, if a motion does come forward for a project in Mingus Park, I heard through a contractor that there was a contractor that wanted to roof the scout cabin.
Ooh,
Whoa,
ooh, that'd be cool.
okay.
I don't want to influence things further from what I've already put out, but I'm just saying,
Free
pick
roof.
one thing. Thank you.
Okay.
So, I'd also like to point out that these are the motions that we're making now. If we hit the ground running and we get a roof and it's going and we're moving forward and everything looks great, we can always come back and say, okay, this is going well, let's tackle another project.
Yeah,
Like,
we could.
yeah, so, but moving forward. Yeah.
Hey, I'm all for getting that thing re-roofed.
Okay. I will accept a motion.
I'd like to move that we shoot for our park pilot program goal for this particular section or year timeline to be the re-roofing of the scout cabin. Anybody gonna back me up?
I have a first, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And I have a second from Bill. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great.
May I ask who the subcommittee members were, please?
It was Carmen and Jamie. Okay, I think we are concluded on the Adopt a Park program findings, and we will move on to item number 3, doggy bags, which, to clarify, I believe is not for the dog, but for their excrement, correct?
correct.
That is correct.
So at the May 18th Parks Commission meeting, Commissioner Faraday suggested that the city provide compostable or compostable,
As they say in
Compostable.
England.
I'll go with that one, doggy poo bags. Staff has met and talked with Commissioner Faraday. He provided some vendor information. The city staff reached out to the vendors to obtain costs and associated with the new compostable bags, and also new distribution boxes, because they would have to also be upgraded. And furthermore, staff did read several reviews associated with both the standard plastic bags and also the compostable bags. And they provided some feedback that one of the major review complaints associated with these compostable bags was that in the rain, they start to decompose and become slimy. But beyond that, the compostable bags are, I struggle with that word.
Compostable or compostable?
The compostable bags,
You say the green ones.
the compostable green bags are double the price of the standard plastic bags. And it's 6 cents per bag for the compostables. It's 3 cents per bag for the standard plastic bags. And also, the city has 15 doggy poo bag stations around the city. Those, if we were to move to the compostable bags, would have to be upgraded to be able to facilitate the new bags. And the cost of each one of those is, just for the material, is $110 per station. So we have included some quotes with the package for the bags. Currently, we have a few cases of the standard bags on shelves, so we have plenty in stock. But the request came up that we discuss this, and I'd like to open it up for discussion if there is any discussion to be had. So answer any questions that may come up.
How many bags do we go through? Like, are we going through like 100 cases a year or like 2 cases?
I don't think we're quite going through the case a year.
Okay. I was
Some
curious what our
ballpark around
poop bag budget line item is.
It's my impression, though, that when I take my dog out I have my own bags with me. Most people do. Once in a great while, I've had to use one at the station, but not very often, so a whole lot of people will just automatically carry their own bags with them.
I know there is, and it's come to the commission a few times, part of the issue with the lack of garbage cans in John Toppet's is people will take the bags, put the poo in the bags, and then because they have to carry the bags so far, they just throw the bags in the woods. So it might be something that looking, even if we don't do it at all of the stations, at least maybe at John Toppet's, do the compostable bags, because that seems to be one of the bigger issues there.
Yeah, it's just creating more trash.
Yeah.
I have a dog, and I sometimes forget my bag, but I do the same thing that you do, try to carry my own. And I would personally appreciate the compostable bags. That would be my request or my move. Jamie, you have lots of experience with working with the bags. So tell us your experience.
Well, I have my own pilot program out at the Millicoma Marsh because we do, from the inception of the trail, we've taken user surveys every 5 years at least. And there's one question on there, this is an open-ended question, what do you like about the trail and what don't you like about the trail? And the top thing for not liking the trail was dog waste. And then, fortunately, we got the Coos, or the Cape Arago Audubon Society, to set up a station at the kiosk, and they provided dog bags. And that has alleviated the problem, pretty much. I mean, there's still poo on the trail, but it's much less. And then the next step was, okay, well, we see those plastic bags on the trail because people don't want to, or they set them down like, I assume they want to pick it up on the way back, but guess who does that? So I got the Audubon to purchase the compostable bags, and we've started a composting just to see how it works, and that's been going on over a year now. And these are the bags that we started out with, and that this company is now, makes this for a place in up near Portland where we got them. And I have had no issues with them, and I handle them quite a bit because they go into a particular bin. I take them out and put them in the compost, whole bag. And we have results from the compost, and they do compost. And if you leave them in the bin 2 weeks, maybe the one at the bottom will start to degrade, but I have, I always wear gloves, but it always works. This company, Lucky Dog, is now producing, they got a different supplier, and that supplier uses partial compostable, so they're plastic and this is a plant-based material. And so I got a hold of the company that supplied them, and this is the company that supplied them, and they said, no, ours are all compostable. And that's the one I passed on to Greg and Dave. And so I don't know where the review came from about the become slimy and ruined. They're in a sheltered area, they're in a box, they get pulled out one at a time and torn off. And I have to replace, we've gone through maybe, I haven't really figured it out, but a roll every 3 weeks. There's 200 in a roll, so.
So I'm just doing some quick back of the napkin math, and somebody please check me. But if it says a 30-roll case, which is one case, 6,000 bags, the difference between the compostable and non-compostable was a whopping $156. Which, I mean, I know we're down to every penny and everything, but Coco?
Yeah, I think the main thing, you're correct, on trails and remote areas is where the compostable bags are the most bang for your buck. The biggest issue is the container that the dispenser has them in, because anything that's just like the peanuts for packing, if they get too wet, they will degrade. And you want to make sure that probably the biggest investment in those, and I concur, using them in a place where you're either off trail or in a park where you don't want people bringing their garbage so you have no cans, is probably the best place for them. And you want the ones that don't have pretty pictures on them and a lot of stuff, because people will take them by the handfuls to use them for other things.
Which is nice if they're compostable, because they will not use them for other things.
But, well, no, they do, because they want them at home, or they use them for the Pampers or whatever. So you have to be careful where you're placing those, because people will use them for other things. So if you're going to spend the extra money, get the ones that are green and clean. Make sure you have the proper container for them, because I think a lot of those they have a specific dispenser for them that's like the ones with the tube that comes out the bottom, as opposed to the ones that are the grab bag kind, specifically for the weather that we have in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that
That's
makes
my
sense.
comment.
Greg, there's two, I didn't see the second quote here that has, the first quote is for 2,000 bags, and the second quote is for 6,000 bags, and it has 3.8 cents.
So this is the regular bags.
Yeah,
Those
the
are regular
the
bags.
second
Okay, those are
quote,
the plastics.
The
Okay.
6,000 bags is the plastic
Okay.
bags.
Got it.
The 200 bags per roll is the compostable.
So if we swap out all of the bag stations and the bags, so all the bag stations, if we swap them all out, that's $1,650.
Mhm.
And then we're looking at around roughly $156 for the first year difference. But we also have inventory left. I'm thinking, just as suggestion, we can try the compostable bags, John Topics. We'll leave the regular bags maybe at Mingus until we run through them, and then we can evaluate how they're working at the other locations. Just as so, I mean, we don't want to like take those bags and just throw them away.
Right.
Nice backup bags.
So the dispensers that are currently in use, they will not handle this size of roll?
No, they're the smaller.
No,
Oh, they're
we
the
have
small
the
ones.
small.
Okay.
They're like quad folded and rolled.
Like those that people carry?
Yes.
Okay.
This
But
might,
al-
bummer.
but I bet that there would be some community members that would be willing to pay to replace a chunk of those dog stations.
that's what I was thinking. This might be a good park pilot program
Exactly.
where people invest in a doggy poo station.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that might-
Adopt a doggy poo station.
Yeah,
Put your name on it. It's kind of like a brick in a building.
so from my understanding, you are composting the waste at the Millicoma Marsh
Correct.
and creating
Compost.
compost.
Coco?
That'd be
I would
pretty
like to, just as we mentioned, maybe doing a pilot, I'd like to get feedback from Bev, since she cleans up in Mingus Park, what she sees with the dog bags.
The plastic bags, people are trying to do better because they've heard my tone of voice when we're in pulling weeds out of flower beds. and we find plastic bags in there. Well, I hope they don't dissolve before we get in there in a month, because we find, I don't know, a couple months ago, we found 3 or 4 just tossed into the edge of the pond, and we had to get a pike pole to get them halfway to him to get them out. They just toss them in the pond or the bush. And if they're, anyway, excuse me. Thank you.
And obviously, the goal is not necessarily to create compost, but to reduce the amount of plastics that gets into the environment. And the fact that composting is a process that is either aerobic with air, oxygen, or anaerobic. We all know about how that works with the wastewater treatment plant. There's aeration to make sure that it's producing carbon dioxide as a waste product rather than methane. Composting within a plastic bag creates more methane than composting in these. So less plastic in the environment, which is, for a coastal town, is very important because that's where it ends up, and producing less greenhouse gas.
Mm-hmm.
I like your idea of trying a small portion, and I would be willing to purchase a station as a member of this city.
Okay.
Not the City Parks Commission, just the city.
I'm gonna, yes. I think, do we want to look at beyond John Toppet's? We're not quite sure how many bag stations are. I'm gonna say there's probably 5 that's spread throughout John Toppet's.
Dave, would you
Dave,
know?
would you happen to know that number? How many doggy poo bag dispensers are out there at John Toppet's?
5 or 6.
Okay. So I'd like to see, let's replace the containers at John Topics, try the compostable bags as a pilot project, spend the next 30 days to attempt to find sponsors or someone who wants to purchase each of those, and if not, then, pull it out of the parks budget, or by July 1st. Do we have any money left in our budget that we can spend?
That's a loaded question. Staff can definitely look into that. What I would recommend then at this point is maybe at the next scheduled meeting, come back with any volunteers that we may have. Then at that point, maybe we can further discussion about possibly purchasing some and placing them at John Toppet's.
Okay.
If it's not part of a pilot program with the subcommittee.
Yeah, I like that.
Right, so let's, if each one of us come back with someone that would pay for one station, then we have John Topics covered. It's 110 for each station,
So
Yeah.
we're looking at,
just for the dispenser.
so we're looking,
Is it the kind that's like crayon where it comes off the bottom?
probably.
I don't know that answer. I can bring that to the next meeting. That's for the cost of the dispenser, but not the cost of the installation of the dispenser. And I can have all of that information at the next meeting.
Okay. All
I
right.
think I could find at least one person to,
You need a motion?
Yeah, I'd like a motion.
Do you want a motion?
I do.
I move that we do what Ariane just suggested.
Thank you, Patty.
Second.
Can that be our pilot project for Toppets, the bags from the earlier discussion?
Yeah,
Yep.
Since you were looking for something in Empire.
yeah,
There we go. Yeah, throw it in there.
okay. And that. I have a second from Carmen.
Mhm. On all things.
On all things. I'm adding it as a pilot project and then doing the, or is it the park, adopt a park pilot project? We're adding it in there, and then also replacing the doggy stations with more information provided, attempting to find sponsors for that. So I have a first and a second. Can I get a call for vote? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ariane, can we repeat what the motion was, or we didn't quite capture it?
The motion is to add replacing the doggy bag stations at John Toppet's as one of the pilot park projects. And it's estimated to be 6, but you'll provide us that exact information.
Correct.
In an attempt that when we meet next time, that we'll bring in hopefully some sponsors that can participate in that, and you'll provide the data for us. And then you'll tell us, don't worry, it's fully covered in the budget, and then we'll be really happy about that. I think that's part of the motion as well.
That's a commission directive.
Totally missed that part of the motion. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're moving on down to item number 4, Parks Commission Vice Chair. We are Beth?
Just for a second, I'll welcome the old plastic bags getting used at Mingus until they're gone, all over, until, I mean, there's no reason to have people hauling 2 boxes of poo bags around.
Yes.
So just if you know, so I'm welcome to keep all those, even though they are taking twice as much of whatever it is to dissolve them, but right now, we're finding them, you can see them, and it works.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
Okay, go ahead, excuse me.
We are in need of a vice chair on the rare occasion that I'm not available, like last month. So I'm asking if anyone on the commission would like to serve as vice chair.
I think Carmen did a great job last time, so I nominate Carmen Matthews as vice chair.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second for Carmen to serve as vice chair. There's no conflict, right, because he is on council. Can he serve as chair?
I
think
don't know if there is a conflict.
Where's Nate when you need him?
Give me a minute here.
I don't think it does. I think we've done it before, but it's been 15 years.
I don't see anything in the municipal code that precludes that nomination.
Okay. So we have a first and second for Carmen to serve as vice chair. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll just abstain since
Yes,
it's
I
me.
think that sounds great. All right, awesome, motion carries. Citizen input.
We have a lot of big plans going on for Mingus, it appears, but I haven't really seen or heard from the city, and I've lived here since '99, what exactly the timeline, what's going to happen first. It would seem to me that if we're going to dredge a pond, we're going to have dredge spoils, haul routes, possibly pumped material that has to go somewhere. I heard recently that you're going to try to expand the amphitheater, you're going to try to do a bunch of things. Before we get too excited about things, I think that parking needs to be evaluated. The ball field is extremely well used. Parking and crossing 10th is not a lot of fun. Perhaps you might want to look at a bunch of things before you go charging into Mingus other than Bev's constant maintenance. But I think that you really need to look at that park really hard before you you walked it, you've taken pictures, you've looked at drainage, you've seen issues, but you really need to kind of have an overall,
A comprehensive master plan.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean that you have to live and die by it, but, and prioritize what is really important to get done there. You know, how many playgrounds do you need? Do you need more parking by the pool to support the amphitheater? I mean, it really needs to be looked at. The park that I use the most is not Mingus. And very, very infrequently am I down there. I didn't even know it had tennis courts hidden away until I looked at a satellite picture. But kind of take a real good look at that. Other things are chugging along out in the community, and they'll percolate out to you guys eventually. But I really think that someone really needs to sit back and as a group, a commission, committee, whatever, really outline on the improvements that are going to be pretty substantial, how to do, what to be done first, and what is the overall comprehensive plan. Thanks.
Thank you.
Real quick, Jim, just may I ask a question? Which park is the one that you use the most?
I use Tapas.
Toppets?
Yeah.
I figured.
I don't use it near as much as I used to,
Mm-hmm.
for a bunch of different reasons.
Yeah.
But-
Coco?
Yes, thank you for that feedback. Bill Davis and I are currently working on the master plan in as much as what's currently at Mingus. We're in the phase right now of gathering documentation from the city. We've already got a lot of pictures during the wet, rainy season of areas, and we're trying to match up mats so that there's Mingus is laid out in 3 areas. So I concur with what you're saying, and as we get that ready to present to this commission of what's there now, that will help us define where we're going to go in the future. So thank you.
And I think that's part of the big push for hiring a grant writer, is to get a grant so that we can hire someone to look at each park comprehensively, and we're not piecemealing this stuff all the time. Because what happens is we do a project, and then 5 years later, half that project gets bulldozed over or redone, or that could have been a great matching grant so that we could have gotten a gazebo, for free. So I'm all for you. That is what I've been preaching for the last 10 years, and that's what I'll continue to preach. So, thank you. All right, we are down to staff closing comments. We'll start down there. Bev, you good? Coco? Good?
Thank you.
Patty? Bill? No. Jamie?
When we do look at Mingus for the grant writing, we should be thinking also about how to mitigate further, when we talk about dredging, further input in the future. And when you walk the trails of Mingus, they're all on the fall line. In other words, they are straight downhill. And I've been working a lot with Trail Keepers of Oregon and the Coos watershed, of course. And with plantings and the proper trail reworking, we could mitigate how much sediment actually gets back into the pond. And that should be part of the overriding efforts of the plan that Jim mentioned.
Can I break in for just a second?
Oh, of course.
You have a bike route proposal in the works. I think you've ordered the stuff, haven't you, Jennifer? What do you call those things? The bike route?
You're talking Sharrows?
Yeah, you have a Sharrow proposal, and that park is supposed to be the destination of the bike route, but you have no place to really put bikes in terms of lockups or any of that stuff. And you're gonna redo 2 playgrounds, or thinking about redoing playgrounds. There's a lot of moving pieces besides what the 2 commissioners went out and looked at. And I think you're gonna find that some of that ground shouldn't even be messed with, because it's gonna you're not gonna, there's not enough money to make the level of improvement that you need. Some of it just needs to stay meadow. But anyhow, there's a lot of pieces in that comprehensive plan.
Can I expand on that just a bit? So we have a group of citizens that came to city council, and they presented a bike route that got from downtown Front Street area all the way to Mingus Park. And please, Commissioner or Council Matthews, jump in if you need to. But council liked the proposal and then directed staff to move forward with analyzing it, and because we had to get a route back. We don't have funding for construction that I know of yet, and we haven't been authorized to do construction yet. We should be finishing up that analysis. I don't want to say design, I want to say analysis next month and be presenting to council. I'd like to say at the July work session, but I'll say August, and if I get July, then I beat my deadline. Does that capture it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Carmen?
Well, for talking, I lost my thought there. Yeah, Jim, I really appreciate all that direction. Those are all very good points, and I don't think they're lost on any of us here. So, Jamie, I really like your idea of rerouting some trails to mitigate the runoff that is eventually ending up in the pond. I think that makes a lot of sense. As we're recreating new trails, maybe it works into some mountain biking trails. I don't know. Another thing I had a question on was, since we have the director of the Clean Water Division here, do we have any of that special funding options for any of our development that's going on in the Clean Water Division that would allow us to do water quality improvement projects, say, as a result, focusing on Mingus Park? Right now, I feel like we're pretty well stacked up with the projects that we've already decided upon, but I'd really like to see us maybe throw something that's in on the parks into that hat.
So you're talking the sponsorship option through DEQ?
Yes.
So
Yes, those are the ones.
those projects have already been identified, and what I've been told by DEQ, we can't change, we can't.
No. I wouldn't want to change them.
But in the future?
In the future, as we get more funding through DEQ, for those of you who don't know, there's funding that goes through DEQ, and we get loans, and then there's a interest on those loans, and it's pretty low, but you can choose to, in lieu of paying the interest on the loan, use the money that you would spend on the interest for a project that helps with clean water projects. And that's where we're mitigating some issues that are related to parking lots and turning them into green parking lots and such. And I could see that really working well with one of our parks projects. Obviously, there's a demand to clean up sites all over the city. So, it's just one more thing that I would like to focus on. And since we're both here, I'd like to see us kind of throw that in the hat. So, but other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Carmen.
A lot.
I think I'll just reiterate what I say every time. I think a full master plan for each park is important. I think evaluating the parks, what we have, bringing in professionals that all they do is parks, and having them evaluate and use the data that our team is collecting so that we can go out and make the parks the best assets that we can. So many times I hear from people that they're just so excited that they come here and they get to use the parks for free. So many communities, especially down south, charge for parks, and that's one of the most amazing assets we have here, and we need to continue to take care of those and be good stewards. So I appreciate everybody coming in today, and any staff comments? We're good? All right, well, 5 after 5, we did pretty good. Have a good day. Adjourned.
Cheers.